komt daar weer een keer voor Jan Ellis. En Jan Ellis steekt voor een eindelijk. Jan Ellis terug met 2. En met van Ellis en een Cappie bal. En dan wordt Cappie en hij terug.
Dis sy, dis dinsdag aand en tyd vir die losgemaal. Hein, hoe gaan dit my maat?
Cappie, dit gaan eintlik oukei, want ek het gedink ons gaan nog meer blou daar van jou kant af sien, so ek is eintlik verbaas hoewel ek ook verbaas is dat daai Springbokkie nogal agter is. Ek bly jy hou nog so klein bietjie vas. Ek het hierdie week gedink ons gaan jou dalk so bietjie verloor daar by die groen en goud. Jy het 'n bietjie mislik geklink.
Ja, ek moet dalk daai vlag omdraai dat die bok op hardloop en nie af nie, nee, jy weet, so anyway, ja, hoorie. Ons gaan nie te veel praat oor die naweekie vanaand nie. Ons sal wel donderdag bietjie daaroor gesels en al daai lekker dinge, want daar's natuurlik die grootte wat wag hierdie naweek. Maar ja, gesie, dis moeilike tye vir 'n bokondersteuner, maar ek dink dis meer moeilike tye in die sin van dat mense is bietjie teleurgestel, want ek dink ons is op so 'n high van al die wenne en jy weet hierdie span en ons weet wat in hulle steek en alles, jy weet so maar weet jy wat, soos jy weet in cricket ook, jy weet elke ou het maar 'n afdag en of 'n paar af-innings en goeters en dan kom hy weer reg, jy weet so kom ons hoop maar vir die beste.
Ja, Cappie, ek moet sê ek dink die gevoel is nie soseer dat ons verloor het. Ek dink ons is al almal gewoond gewees daaraan so rukkie gelede. Ek dink is net Rassie en Nina Brille het ons al so gewoond gemaak aan hierdie span wat sulke hoogtes bereik het, maar jy weet dit is maar die dinge. Mense verdien ook jou klere as 'n ondersteuner, jy moet maar bankvas staan en ek dink die lekker ding is vanaand se gas, ek weet jy gaan haar inbring, maar dis iemand wat deur die hele proses was en beslis 'n klomp hoogtepunte en laagtepunte beleef het. So ek dink miskien kan ons vanaand by haar 'n paar tips kry oor hoe ons bankvas kan staan agter die manne wanneer hulle daai afwaartse kurwe vat op hierdie rollercoaster wat ons rugby noem.
Ja, en dis beslis die waarheid wat jy daarso sê en yes, ek gaan nou nie veel tyd mors nie. Soos baie mense dalk gesien het of nog nie geweet het nie, vir die van julle wat nie weet nie, ons het dis die eerste dame op die losgemaal en ek het van die lig af gesê, ek voel nogals half skaam dat dit 81 episodes gevat het, maar dit is die eerste dame wat op ons program is en sy is ook eers beter bekend as the first lady of rugby. En ons wil vir Annelee baie welkom sê by die losgemaal. Annelee, how are you doing?
Baie dankie, ek is so bevoorreg om hier so te wees en saam met julle te kuier en die eerste vrou te wees en what you say, the 81st episode. I'm very happy to be here. I hope it's the start of many more.
Yeah, we also hope so and we've got a few ladies that watch along and hopefully some of them will raise their hands and join us sooner than later. So yeah, Annelee, as I said, thank you so much for joining us and please tell us, how did this journey of yours, or just to give us some background, you were involved with the Springboks for 20 years, which is amazing. 20 years, there's not many people that even have a job for that long. But how did it all start? That's the big question that I want to know is, how did you get into a male-dominated world, basically, and made it your own?
So thanks so much, Jacques and Hein. It's lovely to be with you guys and to all the viewers. Hi, everyone. So basically, I grew up in a sports family as such. My dad was a rugby player. He played rugby for EP. He was a flanker. So as a little girl, I remember being on the side of the field. And it was something that we always had in common, together. He taught me a lot of the rules and taught me about rugby and sport. And my mom played golf. She still plays golf, something we do together. And I just sort of, I like sport. I like different sports. I'm a very big fan of American sports. I think they do things so well. And I studied sports marketing and was fortunate enough to be in the UK, did a little bit of a stint with Chelsea Football Club as a sort of a graduate in training program. And then I was very fortunate to get a job at SA Rugby. It was actually in the corporate space. So it was with SA Rugby, not only the Springboks. And it was in the early years, 21 years, 22 years ago now, really. And the job sort of grew from there. It sort of became apparent after the Springboks was one of the teams that I looked after. And when Harry Viljoen was there, it sort of became apparent that there was a need for a specialist person in that role. And it did, as you said, I made it my own, and it grew and grew and grew.
Annelee, just from my side, I mean, we know it's public relations, but I think it's almost like HR, you know, it's very broad, and we think media and we think sponsors, and maybe just for the viewers out there, I mean, you probably need that little bit of background before you can really know what to expect from you in terms of the insights there from the Bok camp. Like, what would be your duties? What would that entail? And maybe a few highlights or a few things that stand out in your prep during a test week that we'd have, for example, during this week.
So yes, Hein, exactly. It was the name was the PR manager, but it was actually it was really so much more. I was part of an operations team. So as in the rugby team, there's not only one person that makes the wheel, sort of the cog work. So I was part of an operations team, which included media. I assisted with the media as well, which included kit operations. So the job wasn't a classic PR job. It was more than that. Where the PR came in, it was sort of I was the gatekeeper into the team, really. So from the supporters' point of view of access to the team and that kind of stuff. But it involved the commercial side. So obviously, no team, that no team can survive no one can survive without. It's a commercial world out there, and sponsors are such an integral part of a team. So looking after the contractual rights, ensuring that all the contractual rights are met, that we have energy on the table before the media conference, that the guys wear the correct kit. The scrum cap is very important. It can be any scrum cap, but there can be no commercialization on it unless it's a sponsored one. So a lot of those kind of things, the visas, we travel in the South Africa with our green little passport, very hard to get into any country without without a visa. So that became part of it. And as the job grew and grew, so did the portfolio. The need for, we all know a happy home is when you're happy at home, you're happy at work, and vice versa. So I was I like to think, integral of getting the families involved. And I went to Harry and I said, we need to involve the partners and the wives and kids more. And and I fought to have a suite for them. Initially they sat on the stands, and then I got a bus, and then I got catering, and I sort of it was also a journey for me to get. And if the families were happy, the team was happy on the field, and vice versa. So it made for a good in sort of environment. And as the years went on, they sort of my role was very nurturing as well. And I am by nature, I like to help people and assist where I can, and I don't like to say no to anyone. So the role sort of grew as that as well. And it sort of grew into that. They called me like the mom or the mother of the Springboks, which I didn't like initially, until one day I was doing Dwayne Vermeulen's a visa, and I looked down and I was like, no, can't believe this. And Dwayne's mother, I was older than Dwayne's mother. I thought, okay, I'll have to embrace the mother part of it. So okay, that's good.
That's brilliant. Annelee, obviously you've changed a lot of stigmas and stuff, around female involvement in sports, especially male-dominated sport. What I want to actually ask you is, how did you initially, when you joined up first? I mean, it must have been very lonely in the beginning, because you were basically the only female in whatever squad of 35 to 40 men. How did you break down the barriers to basically get the acceptance of the team? I mean, obviously there'll be one or two guys that don't have an issue, but in those years it was very much, there was no place for women kind of thing, So how did you break down that barriers to get to the point where basically when you left, it wasn't funny in any way, it was almost kind of like, I suppose if all the ladies that are involved with the Boks now had to leave, the guys would probably be like, hey, something's not right here. So, but in the beginning, it was the complete opposite. So my question basically is, how did you break down those barriers to get the full acceptance of management and the players, the works?
Yes, it was, as you mentioned, lonely. It was very lonely in the beginning. In the early days, I started my journey with legends, Os Durant, Andre Venter, Joost van der Westhuizen, Chester Williams, Mark Andrews, you know, and I was absolutely petrified of them. I was completely in awe of, like, you know, how big they were, and every time they walked in, I was like, oh, you know, I can't believe they're this big. And I was, you know, the first time I had to address them, I was literally had to blow into like a brown paper bag. I was so nervous. But I think it was a process. I worked, you know, I had a good work ethic, which I, you know, sort of tried to keep up my whole career. I worked harder and smarter, and I think once I sort of did the things that I said I would do, I gained the respect, and from there it just kind of grew. So yes, it was lonely initially, and hence the title of my book, The First Lady. I was the first lady to actually travel consistently with the team for 20 years. So initially it was myself, then it was Dr. Cheryl Calder. She came in and she was a consultant for the 2007 World Cup. And then, you know, Cheryl left, and then Renee Naylor came in, who's still there. She left and came back. And then Dr. Tanu Pillay came in, and then at the end in 2019 there were 4 ladies, and you know, it was wonderful to see how diverse this team had become, and it was a real win for women in sport to show that anyone can do this. And Rassie was particularly lauded in Japan by teams and World Rugby that, you know, there were 4 ladies in the team. So, and now then Tanu and myself left, and then another one joined. So now there's 3. So I think it set a precedent that there will be ladies in the team, and that they can be successful in there.
Annelee, we'll cycle back to a little bit more about the book and probably a few fun things as well if you going to be keen for it. But just quickly, it's All Black week this week, and we're getting up for that 100th match, and it's I think it would have been all systems go except for a little bit of a downer mood at the moment, but I think everyone's still excited about matching up to the All Blacks. I know in your book I don't know, it was I think 3 out of your top 10 or something like that you mentioned about All Black victories, and we know as fans how much we enjoy that. I just wanted to know what you think what's that something special about the All Blacks? It's like, you know, we change coaches, whether you change a new crop of players, it's almost like that's the one thing that remains integral to every player, every coach, and every supporter. It's just that the big one against the All Blacks. And what do you think is that thing that makes us just, you know, really build up and give our everything for that All Black game?
Yes, no, it definitely is. It is a very big game, and something that the guys always get themselves up for. And I absolutely have no doubt in my mind that they will be up for it this weekend. And I'm also just, you know, like you guys as well, a Lekker supporter now, and very excited about it. I think that you know, there's just such respect between the 2 countries. And not to say that there isn't respect between other countries, but there just seems to be something special with the All Blacks and playing the All Blacks. And it just always seems to, both teams lift themselves up during that week and during a match like that. You know, I was involved in many matches going to New Zealand before I actually experienced a win there. And that first win was in 2008 in Dunedin, when Ricky January chipped and scored that try, and we won. You know, Victor was off the field at the time. He was in the sin bin. He was the captain. John had been sent home the week before because he was injured, and it was just an amazing feeling. It had been raining, and it was quite muddy on the field, and I was on the side of the field just at the end there when Ricky scored, and when that happened, I sort of jumped up and I fell on my bum. You cannot believe it, in the mud. I was so embarrassed. I jumped up so quickly, and I like sort of stood up, and the security guard was the nearest, and he helped me up, and kind of said congrats, well done. And that was the first win that I experienced with the team. And then the year later, we won again in Hamilton, and we won the rugby, the Tri-Nations that year. So there just seems to be something really, really special that is between South Africa and New Zealand. And it's a difficult thing to explain, but it's, you can just feel it arriving in New Zealand. And obviously now they're playing on a neutral ground. Well, they're still closer to New Zealand than South Africa, but they're playing on a neutral ground. But there just seems to be something really, really, really special. The New Zealanders are nice people. We always get on with them. We have drinks with their management. So it's a lovely match to be. And I'm so excited for the 100th test. And I'm so excited for the guys.
And Leah, I just want to ask you, in a week when you play the All Blacks, it is different to any other team, I'm assuming. Can you maybe just share one or two of the things that is completely different than any other week preparation? I mean, you don't, obviously not training wise, but just things that happen differently when you guys get ready for the All Blacks.
Well, especially Jacques, in New Zealand, it's really, really just unbelievable. So from arriving in New Zealand, everything is just, they are so, I think they're also completely besotted and mad about rugby, like South Africa is as well. And they've, the All Blacks have been consistently successful, and South Africa, the rugby team, has also consistently over the years been the most successful sports team. So we have that in common. But when you arrive in New Zealand, it's as if the whole country is just waiting for you. You walk through the airport and everything is black, and you go to a shop and there's a blackout, and you walk down the street and everyone's talking about this big match this weekend, the old rivals, the Springboks, and you go to a cafe and you're wearing your Springbok shirt or something, and the lady behind or the man behind the cafe, serving you, they'll ask you about where you're from and who do you think is going to win? And they'll tell you that in the 3rd minute of the 4th test in 1985, this happened. And just everybody knows about rugby. And there just is a special sort of buzz in the air, So it's a difficult thing to describe, but there definitely is. And the players feel it, and the management feels it, and the country feels it.
Gosh, that's awesome, man. I mean, I think it must be so it must be something to be able to be part of the team in especially, like you say, in that kind of environment where it's just all about rugby, especially in a country like that. But I just want to ask you, Jake and Rassie, the two coaches that you basically were part of winning 2 World Cups. If I'm not mistaken, you were part of 5 World Cups.
Yes.
I don't think there's a player that even can say that. So that is really, truly amazing. And that must have been an experience on its own, just experiencing 5 different World Cups. But I mean, winning 2 with a team obviously is amazing. But my question is, obviously, it's about Jake and Rassie. They seem to be very different, worlds apart kind of coaches. Obviously, both very successful. How do you, what are they like? I mean, you were in the inner circle, so you worked very closely with both of them. How would you sum them up as humans? Let's put it that way, because I mean, I think we all know what they are like as coaches, but none of us know what they are like behind the scenes to work with, and that all those stuff that we don't see.
Yeah, well, I was involved with 7 different coaches, and every time you work with a new coach, it's working with a new boss, because we all do things differently, and we all like to do things our own way. So you had to adapt with every single one, and yeah, Rassie and Jake, I think in their coaching sort of philosophies and their coaching pedigrees, you summed it up. They're both very successful and both very astute, and both unbelievably sort of leaders in their field, and successful coaches, and that I learned so much from. They're both unbelievably successful in that, and also just so I just, you can't explain it. I mean, Rassie and Jake both, they can see things before they happen. It's almost like they know that this is going to happen because they're so in tune with what's sort of happening with the opposition, and they study them so much. So everybody, all the coaches are very, very different, but as human beings, everybody's just human at the end of the day, and we all have our frailties, and we all have our our little issues that we have, and we're all successful in different ways. But both of them, I had a very good relationship with every coach that I worked with, and I still keep in touch with most of them, not obviously daily or monthly or weekly, but I keep in touch with the coaches, and I'm very fond of the coaches. But Jake and Rassie are two very special coaches in that they are just unbelievably good at their jobs.
I think the thing that's probably most amazing to me is that you could have gone through the tenure of so many different coaches, and as you say, it's like having a different boss, and usually the different boss wants his personnel. So I think it's that's the first surprising thing for me from the book and just from your story, is knowing that you were almost the one constant throughout this period. So I mean, that was that's something special in its own right. But Annelee, just during this time, I mean, 20 years, you've obviously been the highs and the lows, and the very lows and the very highs, and we're going through a little minor blip at the moment, and people are ready to throw the Baba out of the badwater at this stage at 2 losses. And I know you were talking about a stage, I think in the book, where it's 2 losses to the All Blacks, or 3 and to the Aussies, and then we turned it around and we won 2 straight abroad. So things do change. Just how did the team take it, and management, when you start getting that criticism, and obviously I think you say it as well, some players are a bit more in tune with it in terms of reading the media and social and those kind of things, and others stay out. But I'm sure the whole team gets that kind of feeling of, listen, things aren't going the way it's supposed to go, and we're starting to feel a little bit of pressure. I mean, in this case, it'll be a Ninaba who's still new as the head coach, starting to feel a little bit scratchy and that kind of thing. So how does the team get to grips with that, and management, and try and overcome these lows and turn things around on match day?
Yeah, I mean, I just must, whoever's listening, just sort of hou kop, dit sal regkom. And we've been through, I've told a couple of the guys and the management this week, it's not your first rodeo, and I know exactly how they're feeling. I know how they're feeling in Brisbane. I was with Jake when we lost 49-0 in 2006. So there are many lows, and they're just going through a dip. And I think that we as supporters underestimate the effect of the conditions that the players have been. And now it's no excuse on the field or anything, because they have been training, and just obviously our game plan didn't work, and we didn't execute on Saturday, and the Aussies were better than us. But you mustn't underestimate the tough time that the guys have been through, and the bubble, and the everything at the moment. And they have to be very resilient, and they will be resilient. And I think that they'll definitely be up for it on Saturday, and excited about it. So I beg all the fans, let's just not write the team off, because I've been through 6-7 losses in a row, and it's very tough to get yourself up for it. But from a management and operational point, which is obviously I was talking about, I was an operations team. It's a much larger team, and you have to you do everything that's off the field to make sure that the players can train and do everything on the field. And obviously the coaches will coach on the field, but off the field stuff is our department, was the operations department. So your job goes on, win or lose. So you have to pay the bills at the hotel. You have to make sure that the airport check-ins are done the next day, and you have to get to the next place or the next country. And while the coaches are doing the analysis and they're doing their things, the players are having a little bit of a sulk or whatever, if they can, if they sort of are like that, and then they have to get over it, because the wonderful thing about sport, and I think you guys will know that well, is that you've got an opportunity the next week to fix it. And that's something that they will really be looking forward to, is to fix what went wrong, and to also play the All Blacks in this wonderful 100th test.
I think there's no better way to fix something like this if you beat the All Blacks, and I'm sure most and many fans will forget and forgive whatever happened the previous 2 weeks already if we win the 100th test of all. So yeah, I mean, it's true what you say, and I mean, I think we all go through it. Just out of interest, you mentioned it just now. You like one of us now. You've retired. You're sitting at home watching the game. Obviously, you look at it slightly different than what we do, because you know the inner movements, and you know what happens at halftime probably. So, but how are you experiencing it at this moment in time?
Yeah, I was I left at the end of 2019 after the Rugby World Cup. Wonderful like high to leave on winning, and then sort of COVID happened. So inadvertently it was terrible time, but it sort of helped me get over that initial sort of sadness that I thought I would have. So it was sort of 18 months before we played again. So I think I was pretty prepared for it. I was very sad at the first match that I wasn't there when they played Georgia, and I was sad not to be with the team during the British and Irish Lions, but I was also very excited. And I am as excited now. I mean, I can't wait for every Saturday. And I'm excited to be a supporter and to have a braai and to be with my mates and to be at home on the couch. And I do know I sort of get nervous like 90 minutes before. Now they're arriving, and this is the countdown, and this is now, then they're going to go and warm up now. It's like 60 minutes, and then they're going to do this. So I sort of still think of it a little bit like that. But I am just, I am very, I'm very proud of the team, and I'm excited, and I'm wearing my book jersey there every week.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Annelee, I'm glad you took a sip of your whiskey, because this is the time in the evening where we make it a little bit lighter, but we do a little quick fire here. So it's just a bit of tongue in cheek. So if you really don't want to answer something, just answer with Jameson. So I'm just going to throw a few quick answer questions, and you just answer the first thing that comes to your head. Obviously, I think you'll be able to get that part. Annelee, your favorite place to tour?
Favorite place to tour, Italy.
Biggest celeb that you've met?
Mr. Mandela, but otherwise the Queen.
Oh wow!
The tardiest.
Sorry, Hein.
There goes Cappie ruining the thing already. The tardiest of the Springboks.
Oh, no, pass that one.
Who is the one guy no one wanted as a roommate? You don't have to add the reason.
Sure. I think maybe Jacques Fourie, because he was always so naughty.
The most punctual?
The most punctual, Dwayne Vermeulen.
Who would be the last to bed after a good victory?
Oh, definitely Schalk Burger.
Who's the biggest prankster or joker?
Jean de Villiers and Jacques Fourie.
Who has the best, and this is the most crucial question of the whole lot, who has the best tongue skills? Who's the best braaier in the team? I know you must have been to a few braais that the guys had.
Yeah, I think currently Franco Morster's probably the best braaier, but Malcolm Marx will disagree.
Oh wow.
Your favorite non-Bok player or coach that you've encountered or mingled with across your journey?
Non-Bok. I think Steve Hansen.
Position.
He's a Steve Hansen. Player.
No, Hansen's fine. No, I mean player or coach.
Jerome Kano.
Oh, okay. And the most superstitious of the box?
Sure, the most superstitious. I think maybe maybe Brent Russell.
Oh. You wanna tell us one of his superstitions, maybe?
Yeah, Brent was always very specific on what he wanted to put the one boot on before the other boot, and I remember one time he left his mouth guard at the hotel in Pretoria, and his mouth guard was in the drawer in his room, whatever, and he told me just when they went on to warm that there was absolutely no ways that he could play a match without his favorite mouth guard. I said, well, how do you know it's your favorite mouth guard? No, it was definitely his favorite mouth guard. So I said, okay. So I quickly organized with the traffic police, and they took me screaming to the hotel. Luckily, Pretoria, it's not too far, Jacques. And we got back just in time, screaming, red lights and everything, screaming, got back just in time as they were walking out of the tunnel at Loftus, and I handed the mouth guard to Brent. And then he said to me, nobody, so has another one. So I wasn't very happy with him.
Oh, wow. That's actually a very good story. Listen, one of the stories that you do, I think, mention is the one about Heineke Meyer. If you care to just share that one also with us. He was pretty superstitious about something specific.
He was. So Heineke, we played the first match under Heineke in Bloemfontein. And the sponsor, the Energate is the drink sponsor, and Energate are still the sponsor now. Long-term relationship with the box, and they had a special promotion on with a green Energate. Now they have a lime green Energate that you can buy anytime, but this was like a real green, like behind Jacques, the Springbok green Energate. They had a promotion. Anyway, so I used to always put the Energate in front of the coach's box and make sure that all the contractual things were right. And Heineke took, he was very nervous, always very nervous. Heineke, he'd always like, drink a water and an Energate. And he drank this whole green Energate that day. And it was his lucky Energate. And he told me that he needed a green Energate wherever he went. So literally around the world, I carried green Energate all over with me around the world to make sure that this green Energate was wherever Heineke was. And he was very superstitious about it. Wow. And when we went to and we couldn't always get the green Energate because, as I said, it was a promotion. So, I had to be quite creative. Cream soda that was made flat and all sorts of things, as long as it was a green color for Heineke. And we laugh about that today.
Oh, that's brilliant. We've actually had Heineke on the show, I think, 2 or 3 times before. So maybe we should remember that one and ask him how the green drinks are going, while he's going to America now.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely ask him if that's still part of his superstitions.
I was actually going to ask as a last one, but not part as the quick fire, what the craziest request you've had, Annelee, but I don't know if Brent Russell's or Heineke's count as one of those, but yeah, the craziest thing you had to try and do for a player.
I've done lots of things. I mean, they sound crazy, but to me, they were just like, they were just normal things. I mean, I've sourced diamonds. Have found places helicopters so that they can propose between tours. Just all sorts of things. I've had a player call me from overseas and said, how does he get to the airport? I'm saying, but I don't know where you are. Where are you? I mean, surely you must know how to get into the airport, So yeah, I think the more you did, I mean, the coaches always said to me as well that I used to like mollycoddle the guys and look after them. But, I think that we all need a little bit of mothering and nurturing. And, if I could provide that and it helped, then, in a small way, Rassie had the great saying that ons dra almal jou eie tassie. And it sounds much better in Afrikaans, dra your eie tassie, than carry your suitcase. Because, you all in your jobs, we all did our own jobs, and that was our job. So I wasn't going to interfere with the physio or the coaching or whatever. I once early on in my career, I ventured to Harry Viljoen and I said to him that I really didn't think he should drop Andre Vos. I was so upset because I was so upset for Andre Vos, And he very quickly told me that my job was not to coach or to advise or to give opinions. And I never gave another rugby opinion. And it wasn't actually a rugby opinion. It was actually just a more like upsetting. I was upset that Andre Vos dropped. So I've never ventured to give any other opinions. You know, I carried my own tussie the whole time. Never mind, you know, we would all help each other where we could, because obviously there's no I in team, and you're all a team. But you know, pretty much Rassie was very good in that we did our own jobs, and if we all did our own jobs, you know, that sort of 0.5% better, we would be so much better as a team.
Oh, Jesus,
I must say, reading everything that the captains said, I can very well, and all the players that we've heard from, I can very well understand that it's not you that had to get to grips with life after the Springboks. I think it's the Springboks who retire need to get to grips with life after Annelee, not having her to organize everything. I think it's something that you can get used to. On that note, I'd just like to move on to the book itself. There, I think Jock had it up. I know I bought mine at a normal bookstore, so it's out pretty much everywhere. If it isn't at your bookstore, then get a new bookstore. And there's an online shop as well that Jock put on the screen there. Annelee, why the decision to write the book, and what do you hope the people or the readers are going to get from your story?
Thanks, Hein. Yeah, so the book is not so much my story, but really my Springbok rugby journey. You know, and it isn't about me only, but about the many different personalities and occasions and experiences, and what it takes to put a team onto the field. If I can sum it up, I want people to fall in love with the Springboks, because I just love them so much, and I want people to understand what it takes to get them onto the field for those 80 minutes, because, you know, we all sit now and we see them run on the field and they play for 80 minutes, but it's what goes on behind the scenes, you know, that makes it such a remarkable journey. So it was really the journey, and I would like to, you know, to educate and inspire supporters equally, you know, when it comes to the Springboks and the dynamics of what goes on in the greatest rugby team in the world, I think. So yeah, so there were, and it was also, you know, a wonderful journey and a cathartic sort of journey for me to finish my career off with, and remember those memories and those wonderful occasions and people. And, you know, I think rugby's enriched my life so much, and the people that I've met and the opportunities that I've got, and I just wanted to share that, because as a rugby and a sports supporter, you know, I think that you can all you know, that you can all sort of appreciate that, you know, and as much as an aspiration and an inspiration to anyone, girl, boy, regardless of your gender, that, you know, that it can be done, and I'm testament to that. It can be done.
Annelee, I just want to ask you, there was a nice story from the 2019 Rugby World Cup that actually involved two players, one from South Africa and one from England, that took part in the match, but very early on got injured, and then then ended up obviously not partaking in the rest of the match. And I'm talking about Ooit, the Jager, and Kyle Sinclair, obviously. So I've heard the story about Kyle Sinclair, and it's actually hilarious. I don't know if there's any way that you can maybe tell us the story of both, but I think the one that stands out a lot, that I don't think many people know of, is the story of when Ooit got injured during the World Cup final. And you know, obviously, I think what's nice about the story for me is the whole, just to prove the passion of the jersey. You know, if, as we hear so many players always talk about, Brian Abana being one of them, you know, he always talks about, you know, the jersey, leaving it in a better place and stuff like that. Would you mind sharing that story with us?
Sure, yeah, and it also I think it also shows, which was a big sort of part of my job, was to humanize players, because at the end of the day, that's what they are. They're just human beings like us, and to humanize them and to bring them closer to the supporters and the fans and the, you know, the sponsors and everyone. So yeah, so Lewis got injured, I think, in about the 20th sort of minute. You know, in the first quarter, just after the first quarter, he got injured. And he was having nothing of this. He didn't want to be injured. You know, he went down into the tunnel and into the medical room, as I did, always ran downstairs just to see if there was anything that I could do. I often went to the hospital with the players, and especially in an overseas country, I would go with. If we had to pay something on arrival, I would have the credit card, and we would get admitted and whatever. But I often went with him, and I would also always immediately phone if he was married, or if he had a partner, or if he didn't have a partner, his mother, whatever. I would always have everyone's numbers in my phone. So as I did, I ran down below, and I went into the medical room, and there was Loert, and he was really in so much pain. He was this big grown man, and he was literally tears streaming down his face, and he was really in pain, and he was fighting with the doctor. He didn't want his jersey to be cut off. He wanted to go back onto the field. He thought he was going back onto the field, and I quickly went to the match manager, and I said, because I knew that his mom and his wife were in the stands. His mom's his wife's his in-law was also there. His mother-in-law was also there, so she looked after the baby. I quickly went upstairs and went and fetched them both, and we went. I got the match manager to let us in, and we went downstairs, and they were with Loert, and trying to calm him down. And there, on sort of opposite us, in the same medical room, was Kyle Sinclair, and he sort of, looked at me, and I looked at him, and I said, "Hello, how are you?" And he said, "No, I'm fine." But he didn't really know much what was going on. I could see that, and he said there was a TV right in front of him, because the guys in the medical room were watching it on TV. There's just above us, the match is going on, and he said to me, "What's the score?" And I said, "Well, there's the score, there, like, look at the score." I think it was 9-3 or 6-3 at the time, or something like that. Anyway, and Loert, we had to calm Loert down, and I explained to Loert that, "Loert, you do have 2 jerseys," and he had some pain, like gas, and so he was a bit happier, and they were, Constance was with him, and Juanita, his mom, was with him, and yeah, it was a nice moment that, these two, it was quite a poignant moment for me, because both these players, both representing their countries, sort of 10 meters away is the field, the greatest sort of stage of their lives, and they were both sitting, quite sort of stunned, both of them, and it was quite a happy, sad moment for me. And then Loert agreed to have his jersey cut off. "Are you sure I've got another one, Annelee?" I said, "Yes, you have another one." And he had the jersey cut off, and then Loert, and then we got Loert up, and then he went, and after half time he went and he sat on the side of the field, and he didn't have shoes, and I said to him, "Can I go and fetch your tackies?" And he said yes. I ran to the field and helped him put his tackies on, because he had his arm in a sling. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I think that's the big thing to me is you said there that you'd like to show the human side of the players, and I mean that was very, very early in the book, and it was that hit home right away. It's just that that's a little behind the scenes we don't get to see in the change room, but just that just that feeling of Loert about this is his jersey, this is the biggest moment of his life that he's been going for, and it's over in 20 minutes. He's got that disappointment, and almost the last thing that he's holding on to is the Springbok jersey. He was still part of it. It is still his moment, and now it's like even to fix his shoulder, he's not going to get rid of that jersey. It was incredible. So it was you definitely hit the nail on the head. And I mean that's the joy I got from the book, is those little insights and moments, and obviously those pieces by the captains I think was great as well. And as I said, just how you contributed to each and every one of them, all different players, different styles, different leadership, and you were that once constant, which is amazing. So just the last one on the book is, how did you enjoy the writing process, and how did it go for you? I mean, obviously a lot of people out there might say that they'd enjoy writing a book or want to do that one day, but it's not a lot of us that get the opportunity, and you got it, and obviously it might prove to be a little bit different than some people think. So how did that go for you?
Yeah, it was sort of born during lockdown, really, and during sort of the first stage of COVID, and I always kept I've got a diary, it's just a small little book that I kept wherever in my pocket or my backpack, whatever. And every year I had a book, and the players used to always just joke, and you've got the black book and the red book and the gold book, and every year. And I kept all these books. I'm a hoarder, so I kept all these books, and I'd always just jot something down, like if I was in whichever country, and one of my wonderful jobs that I loved, absolutely loved, was once a week we used to go on a team dinner out, and it was my job because I'm a real foodie. I love nice restaurants and foodies, and it was my job to pick a nice restaurant, and then we'd go, and then I'd go beforehand, and I'd go and I'd see where the bus had to park and what the menu was, and if I could do it in an hour and a half, because players don't like to wait and whatever, and all those things. And early on in my sort of career, I think like 2006 or something, I picked this restaurant that I thought was absolutely wonderful. We were in Australia, in Sydney, and afterwards, Percy Montgomery, John Smith, they said to me, listen, Annelee, we don't want a restaurant like that. You have to pay for the hamburgers afterwards, because it was tiny little food. So I never picked like a fine dining after that. So I learned my lesson. But anyway, so so I had all these, and I'd write these little things down. So I went to this restaurant and this one, and I'd write things down if something happened, and just to trigger my memory. So I went through all these 20 books, and I started, and obviously started from photographs as well, and then chatting to people. And if I couldn't remember something, I'd phone someone and say, what happened here? What exactly happened? And then Mark Hein was my first media manager when I started with the team. He was with Harry Fullion, and we always liked the way Mark writes, and his elocution and his way with words, and we started. They approached me and said, if you ever want to write a book, then come to us. And I started chatting to them, and that's sort of how it started. And then I started writing a few things and sending it to him, and then we discuss it, and he'd put it into better words than me, and that's how it went. And it was a great process for us.
Let's see.
The time frame from when you started and the end product.
The actual writing of the book, I sort of was like dilly-dallying for a couple of months, but the actual writing was pretty quick. It was about 3.5 months, but it was about 8 months for me, and getting things together and photographs. And my biggest thing was to which photos to leave out. I had so many photos.
Yeah. Yes. See. Yeah, I actually wondered, but I'm not sure you can answer that question. But I mean, how many photos do you think you have?
Oh, I mean, the other day, on my phone the other day, it said I had 29,000 photos, and I thought, no, I have to go through these photos. But
wow.
and that's the digital ones. I had a lot, in the early days,
yes.
which was still, photographs actually.
Yes, see. Oh, that is an amazing story, and I mean, I think the memories alone. Obviously, I think you just mentioned now which photographs to leave out. But I think the hardest part must be to remember all the stories that you could have probably told. I mean, that book can be endless, and I mean, obviously, there's a lot of things like mine. We've spoken to so many former players and stuff, and as a lot of them always say, no, there's certain stories we just can't tell on air, or they're just not allowed to be repeated. So I'm sure you know a few stories like that, but one of the interesting stories, which is very, very nice, is, and I'm going to choose my words very carefully because it's going to sound very funny, but you were allowed to drink on the job, or what was the story exactly there?
Yeah, no. It's more just like literally tongue in cheek. I thought that the longer I would be in the job, the sort of more calmer I would be, but actually it was the opposite. I mean,
oh, wow.
I would like be so nervous and tense during a match, and especially if it's a tight match. I sort of one of the funny stories early on in my career when I was in Edinburgh, I'm mad about whiskies and collecting different whiskies and single malts, and I loved being in Scotland and Japan as well, and brought some back, and And I always used to, it was a joke, and I bought myself a little whiskey flask, and I always had this whiskey flask, and when we won, I'd always like have a little nip, you know, and I'd pass it around, and the coaches would have one afterwards, if they had it, and it was just became a little thing, and the players then clicked on it. Oh, Annelee, where's your whiskey flask? And then I would say, oh, I was so nervous that I'd have to get the flask out, but no, I certainly didn't sit in the stands and drink. No, it was more just a fun. And I would never, you know, just do that. But it was more just a fun thing. And the whiskey flask sort of almost became my sort of lucky charm, as we talked about that, and my crutch. Yes. And then the one got missing, and then I found it again, and I got another one. And so yeah, it's just more a little bit of fun. And the guys always remember me for enjoying a nice whiskey.
That is so nice. Anything more from your side?
Yeah, I think just the last one from me, Annelee, is we've seen a lot of social media action, probably just about post your reign, Rassie getting involved himself, and the British and Irish Lions, a little bit of mudslinging there across the table, across the room, and yeah, tensions have obviously heated up. Just in terms of your travels and everything, I know you said the New Zealanders, and I remember after one big loss, you say they came into the or you guys went to the change room, and the guys were still good and all that. But do you think afterwards now and after what has happened, how the Springboks received abroad, you know, especially from other supporters and other administration levels? You know, I think often we look at probably the English as a team that we dislike and a little bit harmonious, but I'm starting to get the feeling that a lot of the media are building up as, you know, the Springboks moan a lot, and obviously there's the Rassie thing, and everything is building in that way. How does the rest of the world see the Springboks from your point of view, what you've seen?
Yeah, you know, I think at the end of the day, sport is such a leveler, and it's such a wonderful way of meeting people and forming friendships and relationships, you know, in life. And it's such a good sort of thing to have. And I think that there will always be niggles, you know, there will always be niggles, like. But you will always rise to that, you know. The Springboks code of conduct is, you know, is be humble in humble in victory, and you know, and you know, dignified in defeat. That's what it says: humble in victory and dignified in defeat. And I think that your values and your core values of your team and your ethos of your team is that you will always have a respect. You'll niggle, and you will do everything, you know. In New Zealand, well, all around the world, they make the change rooms, they make it as hard as possible. And if they, you know, if the tour agreement says that this is what's going to be there, then that's what they'll put there. They won't do anything extra. And we the same, and all that you would respect that. And I think that there is just that respect. There's that respect for being in the team, and that, you know, your teammate, you know, the players have respect for each other because they're the best in their positions, and they're the best in their countries, and that's who they're representing. And in management as well, you know, you would like to think that you're there because you offer a skill that makes you the best in your position and be there, same as the coaches and physios and medical staff and all that. So I think there will always be niggles, and you'll always have a little bit of, oh, you know, that this one's arrogant and this one, you know, and it's difficult. But at the end of the day, there is that mutual respect, because that's what you're doing. You're representing your country, and you're doing it to the best of your ability. And you know, and you will always have that sort of little mutual respect, whether you know, win or lose. At the end of the day, the Springbok team, I would like to think that they would be, you know, dignified in defeat and humble in victory.
Annelee, before we let you go, I've just got one or two questions here from the side. And although I tend to think I make them up myself, luckily tonight I can see people ask it. I'm going to start with one of Hein's favorite people, who's a fellow Shark supporter. Hein is a Shark, and I'm a Bull, as you very much can see. So Christian wanted to know, who's your favorite player and the nicest guy from a professional point of view?
Yeah, Christian, thanks for that. You know, I've been asked that many times, and I just, you know, 238 players got capped while I was with the team, and I would like to say that they were all my favorite. I obviously worked much closer with the captains, because you know, I would be, you know, functions and, you know, speeches and all that kind of stuff. I'd work much closer with them, and I am, you know, I have close relationships with Sia, with John de Villiers, with you know, with John Smith, but you know, I don't necessarily have a favorite player. I mean, John Smith would always joke with me. He would always say, no, my favorite player was Richie McCaw, but I mean, it really wasn't.
I can just hear John say that.
Yeah.
And then Flores, one of my favorite people in the world, who's a fellow Bull supporter, he wants to know, now that you are not involved with the box anymore and sitting on the couch, basically, which province do you support?
Listen, Flores, I've always been a Stormers supporter, but it's pretty tough at the moment. It's pretty moeilijk. Yeah, I mean, I was always preaching that we one team, and you know, that we all together with the Springboks. But yeah, I have always been a Stormers supporter.
And then lastly, just from me, what is your favorite pastime now that you don't have to worry about running around getting visas sorted and what knows else? What is your favorite pastime now?
Well, Jacques, very funny. I've actually discovered a new, not a passion, but a new sort of interest. And because I'm at home now for longer than, you know, a few weeks, I've now discovered gardening, and I'm really enjoying, and I get such satisfaction of seeing my vegetables grow. I mean, how sad is that? I get excited for a tomato or a broccoli, but it's been fun.
Geez. Annelee, it's been fun having you on the show tonight. And yeah, it's been a massive honor just to be able to speak to you. Yes, I think a lot of people admire you, and I must say, I think a lot of people would give anything to have your job. But I think once they know what it really entails, it's a much different story. So yeah, from my side, I just want to say thank you so much for coming onto the show and, you know, telling us about your journey and everything. And yeah, geez, may the rest of your life just be blessed, and yeah, enjoy whatever you're gonna do from here on forward.
Thank you very much. It's been really, like, I've really enjoyed it, and you know, thank you for having me on the show and for promoting the book as well, and you know, to all the people that are watching as well, thank you so much. Yeah.
Annelee, from my side, I think it was a lovely read, and I think more than just what the captain said, it's the opposition teams and players, you know, from a McCaw and a Steve Hansen and a George Greig. And I think when you get compliments and, you know, people still chatting to you and coming to you afterwards, then, you know, you've made a heck of an impact, you know, because you haven't even directly, you know, had an impact on them, and still you've had an influence. So I think that says a lot about your character. But then I do want to go back to one captain, and I just want to end off. I think this is probably the best summary what I've seen from what I know of you just from the book and this hour. It's from Pat Lambie, and it's, Annelee, you effortlessly mixed it with young girlfriends, our old wives, our parents and grandparents, our babies and children, all with the same delightful manner. You treated everyone fairly and with respect, and although so friendly, we knew never to mess with you. The strongest individual in the Springbok camp at any given time over your period of service. You have been the backbone of the South African rugby family. Your incredible legacy is one that will be spoken of forever, and it is impossible to replicate. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks very much, guys. It's been wonderful to chat to you, and I hope I'm not the last lady. I'm going to watch you, Cappie.
We will do our best, and everyone, go out and get the book. I promise you, it's worth the read. It's really I know even Cappie, who doesn't enjoy his reading too much, there's a lot of great picks in there as well. So it's definitely a must read. And I told my fiance, she's quite an avid box supporter, but she really enjoys these inside kind of angles. You know, her favorite thing is looking at Dwayne Vermeulen's Instagram. So she's even gonna love this book. So no, it's definitely worth the read. So go out and get it.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Annelee, and everybody that joined tonight. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back on Thursday night, and now we sound like we're a proper English show or something. Although yeah, we'll always sound very Dutchman-like, so that's fine. On Thursday night, we'll be back to speaking proper Afrikaans. And yeah, thank you very much for everyone that joined. Have a nice
Lekker,
evening,
julle.
guys.
Tot
Mooi bly.
ziens.
En die komt daar weer een keer voor Jan Ellers. En Jan Ellers steekt voor een 1-0 voor. Jan Ellers terug met 2. En met een